What if I told you that the kingdom of heaven is available to you right now? What if everything you've ever searched for, peace, joy, fulfillment, wasn't far away or reserved for after death, but right in front of you? The vast majority of people spend their entire lives searching for this kingdom as if it were a hidden treasure, not realizing that it was never far away. So why don't so many find it? What keeps people from accessing this divine reality? If these questions make sense to you, stay with me to the end, because today I'm going to reveal what the kingdom of heaven really is, where it is, and what you must do to truly experience it. What you're about to hear could change the way you look at life forever. If I told you that the kingdom of heaven is already here, much closer than you think, would you believe me? Many people spend their whole lives searching for a place of peace, happiness, and fulfillment, as if it were something to be achieved after death. But this is an illusion created by the human mind. The kingdom is not a physical place or a prize reserved for the few. It is a present reality, available to all who will see it. You may ask yourself, if this is true, why can't I see it? The answer lies in the way you look at life. The world teaches us that happiness comes from material achievements, status, or external security. But none of these can provide what your soul is truly seeking. For the kingdom of heaven does not belong to time, nor does it depend on circumstances. It exists at a deeper level of consciousness, where there is a peace that cannot be shaken. When I was among you, I spoke of this truth countless times. I said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Luke 17:21. But few understood. Many expected me to bring an earthly kingdom, a visible revolution, something that could be touched and seen. But what I brought was far greater than any kingdom of this world. I came to reveal that true freedom happens within, and that the only barrier between you and this reality is your own resistance to seeing it. The kingdom is not an abstract concept or an unattainable ideal. It manifests in your life every time you choose peace over worry, love over fear, forgiveness over resentment. As your mind quiets and your heart opens, something changes within you. A feeling of fullness arises, and in that moment, you touch eternity. But why is this so difficult for many? Most people feel that this kingdom is far away because their vision is obscured. There are so many distractions, so many voices competing for their attention, so many worries weighing on their shoulders, and so the essential goes unnoticed. But there is a way to rediscover this reality, a way that doesn't require effort, but rather a new way of looking at everything around you. If the kingdom of heaven is here, now, within everyone, why can't so many see it? What obscures spiritual vision and makes humanity live as if it were separated from the truth? The answer lies in the veil that the mind has built up over time. A veil made up of limiting beliefs, fear, and attachment to the illusions of the world. From the moment you are born, the world teaches you to look outward. It teaches you that your security lies in money, that your worth depends on the approval of others, and that your happiness will come when you achieve certain goals. In this way, the consciousness becomes completely outward, forgetting what's inside. This constant search for something that is never complete is what keeps so many away from the reality of the kingdom. Fear is also a great obstacle. Fear of not being enough, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. But fear is an illusion that keeps the mind trapped in a limited existence. When I was with you, I often said, "Fear not." For I knew that fear is what closes the doors of the heart to the truth. When you give in to fear, you give the world power over you, forgetting that the source of life is within you. The ego also plays a role. It strengthens itself through separation, the need to be right, to control, to defend. It convinces you that you need to fight, to compete, to prove something to someone. But these are all distractions that take the soul away from what really matters. The kingdom of heaven cannot be perceived by a mind that is constantly in conflict. It is revealed in simplicity, silence, and surrender. But how do we break down these barriers? How do you open your eyes to what has always been there? It begins when you decide to stop looking in the wrong place. when you understand that nothing external can give you what is already rightfully yours. The kingdom doesn't have to be conquered, it has to be recognized. And to do that, you must learn to silence the voices that the world imposes in order to hear what the Spirit is whispering in the depths of your being. If the kingdom of heaven is already there, waiting to be recognized, what is stopping it from manifesting in your life? The greatest obstacle is too much noise. The world is full of distractions, worries, and conflicts that occupy your mind and steal your peace. The constant hustle and bustle makes the voice of the Spirit almost imperceptible. But that voice never stops speaking. You just have to learn to listen. Inner stillness is the key to realizing this divine reality. When the mind is agitated, full of racing thoughts, anxious about the future, or stuck in the past, there is no room to feel the presence of the kingdom. It cannot be found in the midst of chaos. But when you learn to quiet your thoughts, something extraordinary happens. A deep peace begins to emerge, a certainty that doesn't come from the world, but from the truth that has always been within you. When I went into the desert for 40 days, it wasn't to escape life, but to enter into communion with that presence. There, without distraction, without interference, I was able to perceive the truth with total clarity. What I experienced in that solitude was something that words cannot describe. I saw that everything that exists is supported by an infinite power of love and intelligence. And that same power flows through you, sustaining your existence in every moment. But to feel it, you need space. You need stillness. The modern world has made this practice even more difficult. You're constantly surrounded by information. Your eyes are constantly on screens. Your mind is bombarded with endless news, opinions, and stimuli. This creates a barrier between you and kingdom consciousness. But if you take a few moments out of your day to disconnect from the outside and turn inward, you'll find that something changes. It may seem difficult at first, but as you persist, a new state of being begins to reveal itself. This silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of inner noise. It doesn't mean isolation from the world, but rather a state of presence and awareness that allows you to see beyond illusions. When you learn to quiet your mind, you begin to realize that there is a still voice within you, a wisdom that has always been there, waiting to be heard. And when that voice becomes clear, everything begins to make sense in ways that seemed impossible before. If the kingdom of heaven is already present and can be perceived when the noise of the world falls silent, then why do some people manage to access it and others don't? What distinguishes those who live in peace regardless of circumstances from those who are always anxious, insecure, or dissatisfied? The answer is in our conscience. It's not the world that needs to change for you to experience the kingdom, but the way you see and interact with life. As long as your perception is stuck in the illusions of the ego fear, the need for control, the idea of separation, the kingdom will remain hidden. But as your consciousness expands and you begin to see beyond these limitations, a new world reveals itself. Suddenly you realize that you were never alone, that everything was always connected, that the peace and love you were seeking was already part of you. This awakening doesn't happen by accident. It requires a conscious decision to abandon old ways of thinking and embrace a new way of being. That's what I experienced in the desert. It wasn't just a period of reflection, but a complete transformation of my consciousness. During this time, all the illusions of the world dissolved, and I was able to see the truth with absolute clarity. Everything is sustained by a single creative force that does not judge, punish, or separate. This force is pure love, and it flows through everything and everyone. As this reality came alive in me, everything changed. Worries disappeared, fear ceased to exist, and the absolute certainty of abundance took hold of my being. But this transformation is not something reserved for me or a select few. It is available to anyone who wants to see the truth. However, you must be willing to let go of old beliefs and free yourself from the shackles your mind has built. Many people say they want to find peace, but still hold on to resentments, still cling to thoughts of scarcity, still fear losing control of their lives. While this is happening, the kingdom remains invisible to them. The key to this transformation is simple. but it takes courage. You must choose love over fear, surrender over resistance, truth over illusion. It's not about following rules or dogmas, but about changing the way you think and feel. And when that change happens, the reality around you begins to change. Because what's inside is reflected in what's outside. The kingdom of heaven is not something to be achieved in the future, but something that becomes visible the moment you decide to live in a new way. Many believe that the kingdom of heaven can only be experienced in moments of deep meditation or spiritual isolation. But this is another illusion that keeps people trapped in the idea that God is far away. The truth is that the kingdom is not limited to mystical experiences or grand revelations. It manifests itself in the simple details of everyday life, in small gestures of love, in the choices we make every moment. Every time you choose patience over irritation, understanding over judgment, generosity over selfishness, the kingdom of God becomes real in your life. It's not something abstract, but a living energy that flows through every action, every thought, every word. The problem is that many expect this reality to manifest itself in extraordinary ways, when in fact it manifests itself in the most ordinary things. A sincere smile, an act of kindness, gratitude for a new day. When I was among you, I showed this in many ways. When I touched the sick, when I shared a meal with sinners, when I forgave those who betrayed me, in all these moments, the kingdom was manifested. But not everyone noticed. Those who expected a great sign, a spectacular outward change, remained blind to the truth that was already before them. The kingdom doesn't come with fanfare. It reveals itself in simplicity. You have often experienced this reality without realizing it. You've felt moments of inexplicable peace. You've noticed love flowing through you. You've had moments when everything seemed exactly as it should be. These are glimpses of the kingdom. But instead of appreciating them, the mind often ignores them and quickly returns to the worries of everyday life. And so what could be a permanent state of awareness becomes a brief, forgotten moment. What prevents the kingdom from becoming your constant experience is the way you direct your attention. If you're always focused on what's missing, what needs fixing, what could be different, you can't see the perfection of what already is. But if you choose to look at life with gratitude, with acceptance, with love, you begin to see what has always been there. And as this perception grows stronger, the kingdom ceases to be a distant concept and becomes the basis of your existence. If the kingdom of heaven is already present and manifest in the simplicity of everyday life, why do so many people continue to feel disconnected? What makes this state of peace and abundance seem unattainable? The answer lies in the blocks created by the mind itself. There are invisible barriers that prevent you from seeing what has always been within your reach. The first such barrier is fear. Fear distorts your perception of reality, making you see problems where there are only learning opportunities. It convinces you that you must protect yourself, defend yourself, worry about the future. But these are all illusions. Fear makes you live in the past or tomorrow and prevents you from perceiving the now. And it is in the now that the kingdom is revealed. When I said, "Fear not, for I am with you," it wasn't an empty promise. It was a call for you to stop feeding thoughts that distance your consciousness from the truth. Another great obstacle is attachment. We cling to ideas, to beliefs, to past hurts, to desires that never come true. The more you cling to what you can't control, the further you feel from the kingdom. Many believe that they can only experience true peace when their lives are completely organized, when they have reached a certain position, when everything is exactly as they want it to be. But that is another illusion. The kingdom of heaven does not depend on external circumstances. It can only be accessed by letting go of control and surrendering to absolute trust in the flow of life. A restless mind is also a major obstacle. Have you ever noticed how thoughts never stop? How there's always an inner voice evaluating, judging, creating stories? This constant mental activity prevents you from perceiving the silent presence of the kingdom. For the kingdom is not something you understand with logic, but something you feel with your heart. That's why learning to quiet your mind, to observe your thoughts without identifying with them, is essential if you want to experience this reality. Finally, there is the belief that the kingdom is something distant, inaccessible, reserved for the few. Many feel unworthy, believing that they must earn this connection, that they must be perfect before they can approach the truth. But I tell you, there is nothing to achieve, nothing to prove, nothing to conquer. The kingdom is already here and always has been. You just have to stop looking away and start seeing what's right in front of you. If fears, attachments, and the restlessness of the mind are keeping you from seeing the kingdom of heaven, how do you dissolve those barriers? How do you let go of the patterns that keep your consciousness stuck in suffering and make room for the truth to reveal itself? The answer lies in overcoming the ego, for it is the ego that creates the illusion of separation, the resistance to love, and the need for control. The ego manifests in many ways. It makes you believe that you need to prove something to the world, that you need to protect yourself from others, that your happiness depends on external factors. It convinces you that your identity is tied to what you have, what others think of you, your successes and failures. But all of this is fleeting. None of it can define who you really are. The ego builds a mask to hide your essence, but this mask must fall for the kingdom to become your reality. The most effective way to overcome the ego is not to fight it, but to recognize it and let it lose its power over you. Every time you perceive a thought of fear or judgment and choose not to feed it, you weaken the ego's influence. Every time you choose to forgive instead of hold a grudge, every time you choose to trust instead of fear, every time you choose love instead of pride, you are freeing yourself from the chains that keep you from the truth. This is what I taught when I talked about forgiveness, about loving your enemies, about turning the other cheek. It wasn't about weakness or submission, it was about liberation. When you don't hold on to the desire for revenge, when you don't react aggressively to provocation, when you don't need to assert or defend yourself, you become free. The ego loses its dominance, and in the space it leaves, the presence of the kingdom manifests. But this transformation doesn't happen all at once. It's a daily process, a constant exercise in observing yourself, consciously choosing peace over conflict, surrender over resistance. It may seem difficult at first, but if you persist, you will find that something inside you begins to change. Worries diminish, fears lose power, and an inexplicable peace begins to take hold of your being. The kingdom of heaven is not a distant promise or an abstract concept. It is a call that echoes in your heart every day. God is not far away, waiting for you to be perfect before you can approach Him. On the contrary, He is present at every moment, whispering softly to your soul, "Come, you already belong to me. You are already home." But how does this call manifest itself? It doesn't come with thunder or grand signs. It is revealed in the little things. In the moment when your intuition tells you to act with kindness, in the moment when you feel like forgiving someone, in the deep desire to live more peacefully. God is always calling, but it's up to you to listen and respond. Many people ignore this invitation because they think they are not ready. They think they have to get their lives in order, fix their mistakes, get rid of their weaknesses before they can approach God. But this is an ego delusion. The kingdom is not for those who are already perfect. It is for those who thirst for something greater, for those who realize that they cannot find true peace on their own. You don't have to wait to be ready. God already accepts you as you are. Others resist because they are afraid of what might happen if they say yes. They are afraid of losing control, of giving up what they know, of letting go of the security they have built up. But God doesn't want to take anything away from you. He wants to set you free from what is holding you back. What do you really have to lose by answering this call? Only fear, anxiety, and the need to prove something. In return, you will find a peace that the world cannot offer. So I ask you, how many times has God called you and you have hesitated? How many opportunities to experience the kingdom have been put off because you didn't think it was the right time? The right time is now. The kingdom is already here, and God is still patiently waiting for you to say yes. Many have grown up believing that the kingdom of heaven is a place reserved for a select group, for those who follow certain rules, belong to a certain religion, or live a flawless life. But this belief is an illusion that distances people from the truth. The kingdom is not a prize for those who deserve it. It is the natural right of every human being, for all are part of the same source. As I traveled among you, I saw up close how people were separated by labels and judgments. There were those who considered themselves righteous and worthy, and others who were despised by society. Sinners, the sick, foreigners, tax collectors, condemned women. But these were the ones I was closest to, not because they were better, but because they were willing to listen and receive the truth with humility. They weren't bound by the pride of self-sufficiency, and so they were able to perceive the kingdom more easily. The kingdom of God is not won by status, intellectual knowledge, or good deeds done out of obligation. It is revealed to those who open their hearts, those who understand that there is no separation between the worthy and the unworthy, realize that God never excludes anyone. Divine love is unconditional. It has no favorites. It imposes no barriers. It is available to all, but only those who accept this truth can experience it. Unfortunately, many still believe that they are not good enough to access this reality. They carry a burden of guilt, feel distant because of past mistakes, or believe that they must become perfect before they can approach God. But this is a delusion that keeps you trapped in the illusion of separation. Nothing can keep you from divine love, only the belief that you are estranged. So the question is not whether you deserve the kingdom or not. The question is, are you ready to accept it? Are you willing to see that it is already here and always has been? For the only real obstacle is your own resistance to believing that this love is for you. If the kingdom of heaven is already present and available to everyone, why do so many still not experience it? The answer lies in the resistance to trust and surrender. The kingdom cannot be attained by human effort or by your own merits. It reveals itself the moment you let go of control, give up the need to understand everything with your mind, and simply trust. True faith is not simply believing that God exists. It is a state of unshakable certainty, a conviction that no matter what is happening around you, everything is exactly where it should be. It's knowing that you don't have to carry the weight of life alone, that there is a greater power guiding your every step, even when there seems to be no way. This absolute trust is what allows the kingdom to become a reality in your daily experience. But surrender is something that frightens many people. They believe that trusting God means losing control, giving up their desires, or accepting a life of renunciation and suffering. But this is not true. Surrender is not giving up. It is liberation. It's not giving up your life, but allowing it to be guided by something much greater than your human limitations. When I was among you, I saw humanity living in fear, always trying to ensure its own survival, seeking security in wealth, power, and recognition. But I said to them, "Look at the lilies of the field, which neither toil nor spin, and not even Solomon in all his glory was clothed like one of them." Matthew 6:28-29. Because he knew that those who trust and surrender don't have to live in fear. God sustains everything, and when you allow yourself to live in that trust, you experience the kingdom here and now. But that surrender requires a leap of faith. You won't see the whole path before you take the first step. You won't have all the answers before you choose to trust. But as you move forward, you will find that you were never alone. And then, when faith becomes unwavering and surrender is complete, what once seemed distant becomes your only reality. Many people believe that living in the kingdom of heaven means attaining an extraordinary state, something that only happens to saints or enlightened beings. But the truth is that this kingdom is already manifesting in your life, even if you don't realize it yet. It doesn't reveal itself through spectacular miracles, but through subtle signs that indicate that your consciousness is already changing. The first sign that you are experiencing the kingdom is inner peace. This peace is not dependent on external circumstances. Even when the situations around you are challenging, you feel a deep sense of calm and security. You don't despair about the future or dwell on the past. There is a quiet confidence that everything is for a greater purpose, and this certainty brings lightness to your heart. Another sign is the ability to forgive more easily. As you begin to realize that each person is on their own learning path, judgment loses its power. You no longer feel the need to hold grudges or defend yourself all the time. You realize that forgiveness is not a favor to the other person, but a release for yourself. And when this understanding becomes natural, it means that the kingdom of God is already at work within you. Gratitude is also a clear sign of this transformation. As your vision shifts, you stop focusing on what's missing and start noticing the blessings that have always been there. Every day becomes a gift, every encounter an opportunity, every moment an expression of divine love. You don't need big things to happen to feel complete, because you already find satisfaction in the simplicity of life. Finally, one of the most beautiful signs of the kingdom is the presence of love in everything you do. This love is not a passing feeling, but a force that moves your actions, your words, and your thoughts. You begin to see others with compassion, to act without expecting anything in return, to truly desire good. This is the true reflection of the kingdom within you, where there is love, there is God. Many still believe that the kingdom of heaven is a place where they will go after death, a destination reserved for the righteous. But this view limits the greatness of this reality. The kingdom is not a physical place or a future reward. It is a state of being, a way of living and perceiving existence. It is already here, and its presence depends only on your willingness to recognize it. When I said, "The kingdom of God is within you," Luke 17:21, I wasn't talking about something distant or time-bound. I was showing that this reality is already within everyone, but it can only be accessed when the conscience is aligned with the truth of love, peace, and unity. The kingdom is not a future promise, but a present experience for those who awaken to this understanding. This means that no one has to wait for death to experience this fullness. The kingdom can be found now, in moments of silence, in gratitude, in the love you express, in the peace you choose to cultivate. It doesn't depend on external circumstances. It can't be shaken by the difficulties of the world. It is eternal and unshakable because it does not belong to the transient, but to the divine. Many people spend their lives searching for something they already have. They seek happiness in material achievements, in recognition, in security. But every external search ends in frustration because what's really fulfilling doesn't come from the outside, but from the awakening within. When you realize this, fear dissolves, the need for control disappears, and peace becomes your new reality. This is the true meaning of living in the kingdom. Now I ask you, are you willing to stop searching and simply open your eyes to what has always been within you? Are you willing to give up the illusion that abundance is in the future and embrace it now? Because the kingdom of heaven doesn't have to be reached. It's already waiting for you, right now. What more are you waiting for to open your eyes and see what has always been here? How many more days will you let go of believing that abundance is in the future, that peace depends on something external, that love must be earned? The kingdom of heaven is not a distant promise. It is the truth pulsating within you right now. There is nothing left to achieve. Nothing is lacking. Nothing separates you from the divine presence. What separates you from the kingdom is not God. It's your own resistance to believing that you already belong to Him. Now choose to live this truth. Choose to see beyond the fear, beyond the doubt, beyond the illusions that the world imposes. The kingdom has already come. The door was never closed, and God has always waited for you. May your journey be enlightened, and may you discover the peace that has always lived within you. Now go. Live with this awareness, and be living proof of the love that sustains all creation.